In part 4 of this series, I noted how the system works differently in different parts of the globe. In the West, the system seeks to break the middle class and turn them into wage slaves. The rest of the world gets more special treatment. In this episode, I'll discuss the when of the conspiracy, which goes back further than you think. Not that far. Let's leave the Knights Templar to the conspiracy nuts. I'm not a nut. Seriously, I don't chase ghosts like the Masons or the Illuminati. This is the real deal. Now, the system's origins don't date back to the Middle Ages like those nuts think, but you can trace it back to the Napoleonic Wars. That's when the House of Rothschild first came to wealth and power. They're the main European family behind the system. Hang in there, it gets interesting. So, the Rothschilds began their fortune by embezzling money from a German prince. Actually, he did. You see, the prince had stolen the money in the first place from soldiers he was supplying to the British for the American Revolution. I know, right? So the Rothschilds took that money and used it to make a shit ton more as war profiteers in the 19th century. Then they reached across the Atlantic and formed alliances with the American Nouveau Riche, names you should be familiar with from this series. Things really got rolling with the creation of the Federal Reserve System in 1913. That allowed the system to control U.S. economic and monetary policy with little government interference. And even better, they get to do it in secret. And they've been at it for a century now. What do you get evil assholes for their 100th anniversary? Platinum? Oh, right, of course. It's the Gulfstream anniversary. Silly me. So soon after establishing the Fed, the system engaged in one of its favorite tactics, starting a war and then funding both sides. Two wars, actually. World War I and the Russian Revolution. They funded the commies. Yeah. Oh, and they also controlled the media on both sides. So, Propaganda City. So at the conclusion of World War I, prominent members of the system were involved in the negotiations for the Treaty of Versailles, which pretty much guaranteed that there was going to be a World War II by crippling the German economy, which of course led to the rise of you-know-who. Oh, and one of the most open secrets that the system has is that they also funded Hitler after he came to power. Since World War II, the highlights of the system's work include illegal mind control experiments, a string of assassinations highlighted by JFK, RFK, MLK, and Malcolm X. Oh, and then there were stolen elections, rigged markets and rigged trade, the creation and exploitation of market bubbles, and possibly, well, you know where this is headed. Now, before you roll your eyes, I don't have a crazy theory here. In fact, I don't have a theory at all. The facts just aren't all in yet, and what we do have is complicated and confusing. It was one fucking crazy day. But I strongly suspect there's something there. There's too many things that are inexplicable, or unexplained at least. There were those 24 bin Ladens who were snuck out of the country right after the attacks. The only planes allowed to fly that day. Yeah. And, on the day itself, there was that long wait before we scrambled the fighters. And, there wasn't any plane wreckage at the Pentagon site. I don't know, man. Where there's smoke. At the very least, we know that the system made a ton of money from the wars we fought as a result of 9/11. On the next episode of Johnny Explains the Conspiracy, I discuss the why of the conspiracy. As in, why so greedy?